In the sprawling maze of Los Angeles, where luxury high-rises loom over streets lined with desperation, the year 2025 brought with it a story of quiet revolution. The city pulsed with contradictions: wealth and poverty, fame and obscurity, hope and despair. Against this backdrop, a man stepped into the shadows, not as himself, but as someone society had chosen to overlook. Keanu Reeves, known to millions as a Hollywood icon, shed his identity to become Ray, a weathered African-American veteran. Disguised by masterful prosthetics and aged by the weight of a fictional life, he sought to uncover truths hidden in plain sight. Ray's journey began at dawn, as he shuffled out of a cramped motel room onto the unforgiving streets of downtown LA. His tattered clothes and cardboard sign marked him as just another invisible figure in a city that moved too fast to care. But this was no ordinary performance. It was a deeply personal experiment, born from Keanu's recent encounter with systemic prejudice on a film set. For 72 hours, he would live as Ray, immersing himself in the struggles of the city's marginalized, unaware that his path would soon intertwine with others searching for meaning in their own lives. Officer Sarah Chen, a second-generation Chinese-American cop, started her morning patrol with a heavy heart. Her notebook brimmed with sketches and observations of the homeless community, a world she was sworn to police but increasingly felt compelled to protect. Across town, Marcus Washington, a young black man fresh out of prison, swept the floors of a community center, his mind racing with worries about his grandmother's health and his own fragile future. Meanwhile, Elena Rodriguez, an undocumented street artist, painted her latest mural, a vibrant explosion of color that unknowingly began to mirror Ray's presence on the streets. As Ray navigated the city, small moments began to ripple outward. A guitar pick glinting in the sunlight caught the attention of a passerby. Origami butterflies, folded with care and left behind, became silent messengers of hope. These fragments of connection hinted at an unfolding story far larger than any one person. Yet, beneath the surface, tension simmered. A planned city sweep of the homeless encampments loomed, threatening to upend fragile lives, while Elena's mural began attracting attention that neither she nor Ray had anticipated. In a city defined by its divisions, the stage was set for an intersection of lives that would challenge assumptions and ignite change. As their stories converged, each character would be forced to confront their own fears, biases, and capacity for compassion. What began as one man's quest for understanding would evolve into a shared reckoning, peeling back the layers of a city that had forgotten how to see its own people. The story unfolds in the sprawling, sun-scorched expanse of the desert city of Kalthar, a metropolis carved into ancient sandstone cliffs and surrounded by endless dunes. Kalthar thrives as a hub of trade and mystery, where nomads, merchants, and scholars cross paths in bustling markets and shadowy alleys. The air is thick with the scent of exotic spices and the hum of whispered secrets, as the city is built atop ancient ruins said to house forgotten powers. A massive, crumbling ziggurat looms at the heart of Kalthar, a reminder of a bygone civilization whose remnants still pulse faintly with magic. The first protagonist, Erin Valos, is a young cartographer with a talent for deciphering ancient languages. Orphaned after her parents vanished on an expedition, Erin seeks answers to their disappearance, driven by a mix of grief and determination. Her quiet demeanor hides a fierce intellect and an unyielding curiosity. She carries a fragment of an ancient map, or relic her parents left behind, which seems to react strangely to the ziggurat's proximity. Opposing Erin's scholarly pursuits is Kalthar's enigmatic ruler, Lord Dren Havoc, a man whose charm masks his ruthless ambition. Dren's family has ruled the city for generations, and he is obsessed with unlocking the ziggurat's secrets to cement his legacy. His motivations are rooted in fear of losing power and being forgotten in the annals of history. Dren's spies monitor Erin closely, suspecting her map holds the key to the ziggurat's mysteries. Erin's unlikely ally is Cade Thorne, a rogue with a sharp wit and a knack for survival. Cade grew up in Kalthar's underbelly, navigating its labyrinthine streets and forging connections with its outcasts. Initially motivated by greed, Kate agrees to help Aaron in exchange for a share of whatever treasure the ziggurat might yield. However, their growing camaraderie begins to shift his priorities. As the trio's paths converge, Kael'thar's fragile balance teeters, and the secrets buried beneath the sands threaten to reshape their world. In the heart of Los Angeles, where wealth and despair collide, a disguised Keanu Reeves, living as Ray, a homeless veteran, unknowingly sparks a transformative chain of events. A conflicted cop questions her role in systemic injustice, a former inmate finds purpose through unexpected mentorship, and a street artist's murals ignite public outcry, setting the stage for a reckoning that challenges humanity's deepest assumptions. The small coastal town of Seabury awakens to the sound of waves, its residents caught in the rhythm of their routines. Among them is Clara, a fiercely independent artist struggling to sell her work while caring for her younger brother, Jamie, who dreams of becoming a marine biologist. Clara's goal is clear: secure a gallery spot in the upcoming art exhibition, which could provide the financial stability they desperately need. Meanwhile, Jamie's ambition is to earn a scholarship for a prestigious summer program, but his grades in science are slipping, threatening his chances. Their lives intertwine with that of Daniel, a reserved fisherman haunted by the loss of his father, who once owned the town's most successful fishing business. Daniel's goal is to restore his family's legacy by reopening the old fishery, but he faces resistance from the town council, which sees his plans as outdated. Clara and Daniel cross paths when she sketches by the docks, and their initial meeting is marked by a clash of personalities, her optimism grating against his guarded demeanor. The first obstacle arises when Clara learns that the gallery requires a substantial entry fee she cannot afford. Simultaneously, Jamie's science teacher warns that his lack of focus might disqualify him from the scholarship. Desperate, Clara considers taking on extra work, but this leaves her with little time to create new pieces. Daniel, meanwhile, discovers that the equipment in the abandoned fishery is rusted beyond repair, forcing him to seek a loan he's unlikely to secure. As Clara and Daniel's paths cross more frequently, a tentative friendship begins to form. Clara offers to help Daniel with promotional sketches for his fishery in exchange for his assistance in repairing Jamie's old boat, which he hopes to use for marine studies. Their collaboration sparks unexpected moments of vulnerability, hinting at deeper connections. Meanwhile, Jamie befriends a reclusive marine biologist, introducing a subplot that could change all their lives. The morning began like any other in the bustling town of Rivermere. Shops opened their doors, children hurried to school, and the hum of routine filled the air. For Clara, a young journalist working at the local paper, it was another day of chasing mundane stories. That was until an unmarked envelope, slipped under the office door, caught her eye. Inside was a single photograph, a crumbling bridge deep in the woods, with a cryptic note scrawled on the back: "Midnight. Come alone. Lives depend on it." The handwriting was jagged, almost frantic, and the urgency was palpable. Clara's pulse quickened as she debated her next move. She had no idea who sent the message or why they chose her, but the weight of the words was impossible to ignore. The phrase echoed in her mind, disrupting the monotony of her day. Questions swirled: what lives? Why the secrecy? The bridge in the photo was infamous, long abandoned after a tragic collapse years ago. No one dared to go near it anymore, not after the whispers of strange occurrences and disappearances. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, Clara wrestled with her decision. Her instincts as a journalist urged her to uncover the truth, but fear gnawed at her resolve. Meanwhile, her best friend, Ethan, noticed her distraction and pressed her for answers. Reluctantly, she shared the photo and note. Ethan, ever the skeptic, dismissed it as a prank but offered to accompany her. Clara refused. The note had been explicit: "Come alone." When midnight arrived, Clara found herself standing at the edge of the forest, heart pounding. The bridge loomed in the distance, shrouded in mist and moonlight. As she stepped forward, a sudden, blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, freezing her in place. It was a sound she couldn't ignore, and it shattered any lingering doubts. Whatever awaited her, there was no turning back now. The second day in Los Angeles began with a quiet tension, the city's pulse quickening as new threads of connection began to weave through its streets. Ray, still adjusting to the weight of his disguise, found himself drawn to a small park where a group of children played near a broken fountain. Among them was Malik, a precocious 10-year-old with a knack for folding intricate origami figures. Malik's fascination with Ray's guitar pick led to an impromptu lesson, the boys' laughter momentarily cutting through the city's noise. Unbeknownst to Ray, Malik's mother, a single parent juggling 2 jobs, watched from a distance, her wariness tempered by gratitude for the fleeting moment of joy her son had found. Officer Chen, meanwhile, faced mounting pressure from her precinct to enforce the upcoming sweep of the homeless encampments. Her partner, Officer Daniels, dismissed her concerns, labeling her empathy as a weakness. That morning, she encountered Elena Rodriguez for the first time, catching the artist mid-mural. Chen was struck by the raw emotion in Elena's work, particularly the origami butterflies that seemed to flutter off the walls. Their brief exchange left Chen questioning how art could capture truths she struggled to articulate. At the community center, Marcus found himself at a crossroads. A former associate from his past life approached him with a tempting offer that promised quick money but risked undoing the fragile stability he was building. Seeking clarity, Marcus confided in Ray, who shared a story from his own military days. Though Marcus didn't know it, the story was a blend of truth and Keanu's own experiences, a testament to resilience and the importance of choice. As dusk fell, Elena's mural began to draw a crowd. Among them was a local journalist, intrigued by the recurring butterflies and the figure of Ray, whose presence had become an unspoken symbol of perseverance. The journalist's questions planted a seed of doubt in Elena. Was her art merely a reflection, or was it becoming a catalyst for something greater? By nightfall, the city seemed to hold its breath. Ray, now more aware of the fragile connections forming around him, left an origami butterfly on Malik's doorstep. The gesture, small yet profound, hinted at the deeper impact his journey was beginning to have. The second day in Los Angeles began with a simmering tension that hinted at the storm to come. Ray, still navigating the streets as an invisible figure, found himself caught in a heated argument outside a convenience store. A shopkeeper, accusing a homeless man of theft, refused to listen as the man pleaded his innocence. Ray intervened, diffusing the situation with calm authority, but not before catching the wary eye of Officer Chen, who had been observing from her patrol car. Her growing suspicion about Ray's identity clashed with her increasing admiration for the quiet dignity he exuded, leaving her torn between her instincts and her duty. Meanwhile, Marcus's journey took an unexpected turn when he discovered an origami butterfly tucked into his grandmother's Bible. The delicate paper creation, identical to those appearing in Elena's murals, seemed like a sign. Inspired, he decided to organize a small gathering at the community center, inviting local youth to share their stories and dreams. His efforts to create a safe space for those often overlooked began to attract attention, but also stirred resentment from a former associate who saw Marcus's transformation as a betrayal of their shared past. Elena, too, faced her own challenges. Her latest mural, now the centerpiece of a busy intersection, had drawn the ire of a local business owner who demanded its removal, claiming it encouraged loitering. Undeterred, Elena doubled down, adding more intricate details to the piece, including the unmistakable silhouette of Ray. As she worked late into the night, she noticed a figure watching her from the shadows. It was Ray, his expression unreadable, but his presence unmistakably heavy with meaning. By the third day, the city's tensions reached a breaking point. The planned sweep of the encampments loomed large, with protesters and media gathering in anticipation. Officer Chen, now fully aware of Ray's true identity but conflicted about exposing him, found herself at odds with her partner, whose disregard for the homeless population boiled over in a public confrontation. The scene grew chaotic as Marcus, armed with nothing but a microphone and his newfound confidence, stepped forward to address the crowd, his words echoing with raw emotion. As the mural's unveiling drew near, Elena faced an impossible choice: reveal the inspiration behind her work and risk exposing Ray's experiment, or keep her silence and let the art speak for itself. Her decision would ripple through the crowd, igniting conversations that transcended the immediate conflict. Ray, standing at the heart of it all, realized the experiment had spiraled into something far greater than he could control. The lives of those he had touched were now intertwined, their struggles and triumphs reflecting the fractured yet resilient spirit of the city. In those final moments, as the sun set over Los Angeles, the boundaries between performance and reality dissolved. Each character stood at a crossroads, their choices carrying the weight of their convictions. The city, alive with tension and hope, held its breath. The third day began with an air of unease, as the city braced for the planned sweep of the encampments. Ray, now a familiar figure among the homeless community, found himself at the center of rising tensions. His quiet demeanor and small acts of kindness had earned him trust, but the looming threat of displacement weighed heavily on everyone. Keanu, still fully immersed in Ray's persona, began to feel the crushing weight of the systemic forces at play, a reality far removed from his world of privilege. Officer Chen, torn between her growing empathy and the orders she was expected to follow, found herself at a crossroads. Her morning briefing had revealed the city's plans to forcibly clear the encampments, a decision that sparked heated debates within her precinct. Her partner's dismissive comments about the homeless reignited her doubts about the system she served. As she patrolled the area, her gaze lingered on Elena's mural, its haunting depiction of Ray surrounded by origami butterflies stirring something deep within her. For Marcus, the day marked a turning point. Inspired by Ray's resilience and quiet wisdom, he had spent the morning organizing a small gathering at the community center, inviting local kids to hear his story of redemption. However, the news of the sweep threatened to derail his newfound purpose. Determined to protect the vulnerable, Marcus decided to confront the city officials, his actions setting him on a collision course with Officer Chen and the unfolding chaos. Elena, unaware of the full scope of Ray's story, had completed her mural just hours before. Its raw emotion and striking imagery had begun drawing crowds, including local journalists. As the media descended, Elena found herself thrust into the spotlight, her art becoming a symbol of resistance and a rallying cry for the marginalized. The attention brought with it both hope and danger, as whispers of Ray's true identity began to circulate. By midday, the streets were a volatile mix of protesters, police, and media. Ray, caught between his desire to remain anonymous and his growing sense of responsibility, faced a critical decision. When a young boy from the encampment was nearly caught in the fray, Ray stepped forward, his actions drawing the attention of Officer Chen and Marcus. In that moment, the lines between actor and character blurred, as Keanu's instincts as a protector surfaced through Ray's weathered exterior. As the confrontation escalated, Elena's mural became a focal point, its message of unity and resilience resonating with the crowd. Officer Chen, witnessing Ray's courage and the humanity of those she had been tasked to displace, made a split-second decision that would alter her career. Marcus, emboldened by Ray's bravery, stood his ground, his voice rising above the chaos to call for understanding and change. The scene reached a fever pitch, with the media capturing every moment. In the midst of the turmoil, Ray's guitar pick slipped from his pocket, its unmistakable connection to Keanu Reeves sparking a wave of recognition among the crowd. The revelation sent shockwaves through the gathering, forcing everyone to confront their assumptions about identity, privilege, and the masks people wear. As the dust began to settle, the city was left with more questions than answers, but also with a glimmer of hope that change, however small, might be possible. The second night fell heavy over Los Angeles, its neon glow masking the simmering tensions below. Ray sat quietly under a freeway overpass, strumming a battered guitar he'd found discarded earlier that day. The soft melody drew a small crowd of the homeless, their faces illuminated by flickering firelight. Among them was Marcus, who had brought leftover food from the community center. The two men exchanged stories, their bond deepening as Marcus revealed his fears of being forever branded by his past. Ray's words, though cryptic, carried a wisdom that struck a chord. It's not the scars people see that define you. It's the ones you choose to heal. Meanwhile, Elena worked tirelessly on her mural, unaware of the growing attention it was receiving online. A local journalist had stumbled upon her work and shared it, sparking a wave of curiosity. The figure in the mural, surrounded by origami butterflies, began to resonate with viewers, many interpreting it as a symbol of resilience and transformation. But Elena's pride was tempered by fear. Her undocumented status meant any attention could bring unwanted scrutiny. Still, she felt compelled to finish the piece, as if guided by an unseen force. Officer Chen's patrol that evening brought her back to the encampment where Ray had been seen earlier. Her partner, Officer Doyle, dismissed the group as just another cleanup job, but Chen lingered, her gaze falling on Ray's makeshift shelter. She noticed the guitar pick glinting in the dim light and felt a pang of recognition. Doyle's callousness grated on her, but she remained silent, torn between her growing empathy and the rigid expectations of her badge. As the night deepened, tensions escalated. A group of activists arrived at the encampment, determined to stop the city's planned sweep. Among them was a young woman who recognized Elena's mural online and came to document the area. Her live stream quickly gained traction, drawing more eyes to the unfolding situation. Ray, caught in the middle, tried to mediate, but his words fell on deaf ears as the activists clashed with Doyle and his reinforcements. By dawn, alliances began to form in unexpected places. Chen, moved by Ray's quiet dignity and Doyle's increasing aggression, started questioning her role in the impending sweep. Marcus, inspired by Ray's courage, decided to stand with the activists, risking his fragile stability. And Elena, watching the chaos from afar, realized her art had become a rallying cry for a movement she hadn't intended to lead. But as the first rays of sunlight broke through the smog, betrayal loomed. A bystander, eager for their moment of fame, captured a close-up of Ray's face and posted it online. The image began to circulate, sparking speculation about his identity. Keanu's carefully constructed experiment teetered on the edge of collapse, threatening to unravel the fragile connections that had begun to form. The stage was now set for a reckoning. Each character stood at a crossroads, their choices poised to ripple through the lives of those around them. The city, unaware of the storm brewing in its heart, braced for a day that would challenge its very soul. As the final day of Keanu's experiment unfolded, the city seemed to pulse with an unspoken tension. Ray's quiet resilience had become a thread connecting lives that were otherwise worlds apart. The looming sweep of the homeless encampments, ordered by the city, became a flashpoint, forcing everyone involved to confront their deepest fears and convictions. For Keanu, the challenge was no longer simply staying in character but grappling with the weight of Ray's existence, a life shaped by systemic neglect and quiet strength. The line between actor and man blurred further as he found himself questioning his own privilege in ways he hadn't anticipated. Officer Chen, torn between her duty and her conscience, faced a pivotal moment when her partner's aggressive stance toward the homeless collided with her growing empathy for Ray. A heated argument erupted between them, exposing the fractures in her own beliefs and the system she represented. Her sketchbook, which had quietly chronicled her observations, now reflected a more profound truth: the humanity she had once overlooked in the people she was meant to protect. With the sweep imminent, she was forced to make a decision that could either cost her career or reaffirm her integrity. At the community center, Marcus found himself unexpectedly thrust into the role of leader when a group of teens he had been mentoring decided to join the protest against the sweep. His newfound sense of purpose clashed with his fear of jeopardizing his fragile second chance. A conversation with Ray the night before had planted a seed of courage, but stepping into the fray meant risking everything he had worked to rebuild. As the crowd gathered near Elena's mural, Marcus stood at a crossroads, unsure whether to lead or retreat. Elena's mural had become a rallying point, its depiction of Ray surrounded by origami butterflies drawing attention from both local activists and the media. But with the spotlight came danger. A journalist's inquiry about the mural's inspiration threatened to expose Keanu's experiment prematurely. The artist, who had unknowingly captured Ray's essence, now had to navigate the fine line between amplifying her message and protecting the vulnerable figure at its heart. Her art, once an act of quiet defiance, had become a catalyst for change, leaving her to grapple with the unintended consequences of her work. As the protest escalated, Ray found himself at the center of the storm. A confrontation with one of the wealthy teens from earlier, now emboldened by the chaos, forced him to confront not only their prejudice but also his own growing frustration with the limits of his experiment. The guitar pick, which had gone unnoticed by most, slipped from his pocket during the scuffle, catching the eye of a bystander who recognized its connection to Keanu Reeves. The revelation threatened to unravel everything, but it also brought an unexpected opportunity to amplify the voices of those he had come to understand. In the final moments before the sweep, the paths of Ray, Chen, Marcus, and Elena converged. A single act of defiance, a young boy placing an origami butterfly at the feet of Elena's mural, sparked a chain reaction that brought the crowd to a standstill. The tension in the air was palpable, but so was the possibility of change. Each character, shaped by their journey over the past 3 days, stood on the precipice of transformation, their choices poised to ripple far beyond the streets of Los Angeles. The third day erupted into chaos as the city's planned sweep of the encampments collided with a growing crowd of protesters and media drawn by Elena's mural. The artwork, now a symbol of resilience and defiance, featured Ray surrounded by origami butterflies, a quiet but powerful testament to unseen lives. Keanu, still disguised as Ray, found himself at the center of the storm, his anonymity hanging by a thread as cameras and questions closed in. When a journalist recognized the unique guitar pick glinting in his hand, the truth teetered on the edge of exposure. Officer Chen, torn between her duty and her conscience, faced a critical choice. As her partner prepared to enforce the city's orders with unnecessary force, she stepped forward, shielding Ray and the others from harm. Her act of defiance not only exposed the systemic issues she had long ignored but also inspired her to take a stand within the department, vowing to advocate for reform from within. For the first time, she felt the weight of her badge as both a burden and a tool for change. Meanwhile, Marcus, emboldened by Ray's quiet wisdom, rallied the community center kids and protesters into a peaceful demonstration. His leadership, born from his own struggles, transformed him into a voice for the voiceless. When the media turned its attention to him, Marcus shared his story, highlighting the humanity of those society had written off. His grandmother, watching from her hospital bed adorned with one of Ray's origami butterflies, smiled with pride as her grandson found his purpose. As the dust settled, Elena's mural became a viral sensation, sparking citywide conversations about homelessness, race, and privilege. Though Keanu's identity was ultimately revealed, it was Ray's story that resonated. The experiment's exposure forced the city to confront its apathy, leading to new initiatives for affordable housing and community support. Keanu, humbled by the experience, urged viewers to look beyond appearances and take action in their own communities. This story reminds us that transformation begins with empathy. Take a moment today to see the unseen, to extend a hand, and to challenge the systems that divide us. Change starts with you. As the dust settled on the chaotic streets of Los Angeles, the lives of Ray, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena stood irrevocably changed. Keanu Reeves, stepping out of his disguise, was left with a profound understanding of the humanity often overlooked in the city's margins. Ray, though a fictional creation, had become a vessel for real connections, illuminating the resilience and dignity of those society often discards. For Keanu, the experiment was not about heroism but about listening, truly listening, to the stories that are too often silenced. Officer Sarah Chen, torn between her badge and her conscience, made a choice that would redefine her career. She publicly condemned the city's treatment of its homeless population, using her platform to advocate for systemic reforms. Her courage inspired others within the force to question their own roles, sparking a ripple effect that would challenge entrenched norms. Meanwhile, Marcus, emboldened by Ray's wisdom, launched a mentorship program at the community center, turning his past into a source of strength for others. His grandmother, touched by the origami butterflies that had mysteriously appeared in her room, found peace in her final days, her story now intertwined with Marcus's newfound purpose. Elena's mural, unveiled amidst the turmoil, became a symbol of hope and resistance. Its depiction of Ray surrounded by butterflies resonated far beyond the city, sparking conversations about homelessness, racial inequality, and the power of art to drive change. Though she never learned Ray's true identity, Elena's work became a catalyst for unity, reminding the world that even the smallest gestures can leave an indelible mark. As Keanu reflected on the experiment, he issued a heartfelt call to action: look closer. Listen harder. Act kinder. His journey as Ray was over, but the lessons it imparted were just beginning. The city, though still fractured, now carried the seeds of transformation planted by a single act of empathy. And as the sun set over Los Angeles, the origami butterflies scattered across its streets seemed to whisper a promise: change is possible, one connection at a time.